Millionaire discovers dark secret. Cleaning lady saves his daughter at midnight. The clock struck midnight when a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, echoing through the lavish halls of the Davidson mansion. The moonlight illuminated the opulent chandeliers, casting eerie shadows that danced around the room. Everything froze as if the walls themselves held their breath, waiting. Just outside a door, a cleaning lady named Rosa felt her heart race. She wasn't supposed to be there, working the graveyard shift, but desperate times called for desperate measures. What made it more bizarre? Rosa had only recently taken the job, having stumbled across an ad on the community board, pinned carelessly among old flyers. She had no idea the job would plunge her into a whirlwind of secrecy and danger. The Davidson family had lived a charmed life, their wealth bulging like the gold-lined ceilings above them. But wealth doesn't always equate to safety, and Rosa soon discovered the dark currents running beneath the surface of their perfect existence. As she hesitated by the door, the chilling realization hit her: this scream belonged to little Ella, the millionaire's daughter. Tears stung Rosa's eyes as she grabbed onto the doorknob, feeling the icy bronze bite into her palm. Suddenly, there was silence, as if the whole world had been swallowed whole. She couldn't just stand there. She had to act. With trembling hands, she turned the knob and pushed the door open, revealing chaos woven in every fiber of the moment. The room was a wreck. Toys were strewn across the floor, the bed sheets twisted as if a struggle had occurred. And then she saw it. Ella, tied up and frightened, eyes wide and pleading. Panic surged through Rosa's veins. She knew she was risking everything: her life, her job, her very safety. But time was slipping away, and she couldn't let fear bind her. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Rosa felt her body tense as she approached the overwhelmed child. The sound of footsteps nearby snapped her back to reality. Someone was coming. Her heart raced even faster. Would it be the kidnappers? Maybe someone worse? As he turned the corner, the figure emerged, a shadowy giant cloaked in darkness, his eyes locked on Rosa, filled with terrifying intent. The air thickened. She had to save Ella. But where would that leave her? Could she really thwart a wealthy family's darkest secret? The moment hovered in the stillness. Would they run? Or would they both fall victim to the shadows that seemed to lurk around every corner? What awaited them as they stepped out into the night? Rosa's breath hitched, frozen as the looming figure stepped closer. She could feel the weight of his gaze, an imposing force that seemed to snuff out every remaining flicker of bravery in her chest. Just steps away from Ella, from safety, she was paralyzed with fear, yet every instinct screamed for her to act. Ella, she whispered urgently, trying to keep the tremor out of her voice. The girl's wide eyes locked onto hers, a look of simultaneous desperation and trust painting the little girl's face. Time moved sluggishly, the footsteps approaching like an ominous drumbeat. Rosa forced herself to take a step forward, then another, inching toward the child. Stay quiet. I'm going to help you, she promised, crouching down to Ella's eye level. In the shadows, the hulking figure paused. It had noticed her, a breath of wind off the ocean cliff. The enormity of the situation settled in Rosa's chest. She could not turn back now. The restraints binding Ella were tight, but Rosa's fingers trembled with determination as she fumbled for the knots. The footsteps were louder now, purposeful. Every second ticked away like sand in an hourglass. She worked frantically, her heart thundering in her ears. Please hurry, Ella whimpered, her small voice fragile and edged with tears. Just as the last knot began to give, the figure lunged forward, his shadow swallowing the light in the room. Rosa yanked on the ropes, pulling Ella free just as the massive hand shot out, grabbing hold of the air where Ella had been bound just moments before. Run, now, she shouted, her voice raw but filled with an urgency that ignited a burst of adrenaline. They sprinted into the hallway, the deep plush carpet muffling their flight. Rosa could hear the thumping footsteps behind them, malevolent and furious. Where could they go? The mansion was a labyrinth, an expensive maze designed to hide secrets, yet it felt like a cage now. Through here, she cried, darting into a narrow side corridor that branched away from the main staircase. The enormity of her next choice crashed against her. The security system, the cameras, everything in this house screamed danger. As they darted into the shadows, Rosa snatched a moment to glance back. The figure had paused at the entrance of the corridor, scanning for any sign of movement, breath hot and heavy. They crouched low against the wall, heartbeats pounding in perfect sync. What do we do now? Ella whispered, her voice trembling. Rosa's mind raced, desperation mingling with raw determination. We need to get out of this house. We have to find a way to a window, any window, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. Will he find us? Ella's eyes darted to the dim light at the end of the hallway, fear etching the delicate features of her face. We won't let that happen, Rosa assured, though she wasn't sure how many lies she could tell herself to keep that promise. The two of them edged cautiously down the hall when Rosa felt the hairs on her neck stand up. There was a creeping noise coming from behind them, heavy footfalls growing louder. It was time to move. They turned the corner into the next hallway, where a door stood slightly ajar, a crack of light beckoning them. But as Rosa reached for the handle, she heard a sound that stopped her dead in her tracks. A phone vibrating on the wooden table of the nearby study. Don't move, the voice commanded from the darkness right behind them. Rosa clutched Ella tightly, dread clawing at her throat. What now? They might have already been trapped, and the line between safety and danger was as thin as mist. Would they outsmart the shadows? Or had they walked straight into a trap? The door creaked ominously as the figure advanced. What awaited them in that chilling moment of terror? Rosa's heart raced, pulsing in tandem with the dread that enveloped them. The voice was low but commanding, a sharp contrast to the soft whimper of Ella beside her. She could feel the little girl's warmth, a small lifeline in a nightmare, but it wouldn't last. They were drawing the monster closer just by standing still. Rosa, Ella whispered, tugging on the hem of her shirt. Shoo, Rosa breathed, squeezing her eyes shut for a heartbeat, trying to gather any courage she could muster. They were like prey caught in the crosshairs of a predator. The hulking figure took a step closer, revealing more of himself in the light from the study. A dark suit, scruffy but expensive, and a face shadowed by an insidious smirk, sharp features cutting through the gloom like a knife. I said don't move. His words hung in the air, thick with menace. We have to get out, she thought, planning their next move. The fear was suffocating, yet mixed in was an ember of rebellion. The door behind them offered a way out, just inches away, yet Rosa didn't dare reach for it. She could almost hear the heavy breathing of the figure as he scanned the empty hallway. He paused, his eyes lingering on the untouched phone vibrating on the table. That's a curious little sound, he murmured, stepping deliberately toward it. His back was turned momentarily, and Rosa seized the fleeting opportunity. Now, she whispered urgently, pushing Ella to the side so they could dart into the nearest room. It was dark, the air stale, but the musty scent of carpet and wood enveloped them like a blanket of safety. They stumbled into the room, finding themselves in a walk-in closet stacked with clothing and forgotten memorabilia. It felt claustrophobic, and they both froze, bodies pressed against the back wall. The quiet was deafening. Rosa held her breath, listening, praying the figure wouldn't think to look here. The minutes felt like hours as they stood still, listening to the rhythmic pounding of her heart. She could hear the muted sounds of the phone vibrating, and then footsteps moving away. Are we safe? Ella's small voice quivered, and Rosa squeezed her shoulder. For now, she breathed, unable to shake the loss of warmth that slithered down her spine. But the silence in the closet was shattered as a loud crash rang out from the nearby room. The hulking figure was on the move again, searching diligently. The adrenaline surged through Rosa like fire. They had to escape, but the only way out was through the chaos outside. With a shaky hand, she pulled Ella close. We need to find a window or a way down to the exit. Follow my lead, okay? Okay, Ella replied, her voice small but resolute. Rosa pushed the door ajar, peeking into the darkened hallway. No sign of their pursuer, but the mansion felt alive, pulsing like a living organism intent on trapping them. They took careful steps, moving away from the closet towards the open area of the room, each sound amplifying their fear. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed from the other side of the house, followed by a deep chuckle. "I know you're here." The voice was triumphant, twisted in glee. "You can't hide from me." Rosa felt Ella shiver against her. "We need to hurry," Rosa hissed, urging her forward, fear lending strength to her resolve. They slipped through doorways and corners, each encounter a maze they had to solve quickly. In the living room, they spotted a large window, glowing faintly with the silver light of the moon outside. "That's it." Rosa pointed, hope igniting in her chest. "Ella, help me with this curtain," but just as they reached for it, the figure's shadow loomed in the doorway. "No more games," he bellowed, his face twisted in frustration, not a breath caught in Rosa's throat as Ella's grip on her tightened. "Run," she screamed, but the window was now a ghost of hope, the doorways closing in with every move they made. Would they make it to the opening before the darkness swallowed them whole? The chase pressed on, and the shadows danced closer. What twists awaited them in this house of horrors? Would survival be enough to unravel the dark secrets buried within these walls? Rosa's legs propelled her forward, but fear clawed at her, threatening to anchor her in place. Ella's tiny hand clutched hers as they dashed through the dimly lit living room, hearts pounding loudly, drowning out the ominous footsteps gaining on them. The window sparkled like a distant star, but the path to it felt like an obstacle course of hopelessness. "Ella, jump!" Rosa hissed as they reached the U-shaped couch. They ducked low, desperate to break line of sight with the figure now stalking the house with keen determination. She held her breath, a whisper of air stealing past her lips as she glanced back. His eyes, wild with manic glee, scanned the room, searching for any sign of movement. "Where are you hiding?" he taunted, voice dripping with malice. "You think I can't find you?" The darkness felt thick, almost tangible, and the walls of the mansion seemed to close in, suffocating hope. As Ella trembled beside her, Rosa's mind raced. They needed a distraction, something to draw him away. "Please, let us search the room," Ella pleaded, her eyes wide with terror. "No," Rosa whispered. "We need to stick together." They couldn't risk searching when every moment mattered. Suddenly, a raging wind whipped through the open corridor, roaring like a beast. Heavy curtains fluttered ominously as shattered glass from the window she nearly reached came crashing down. It startled the figure, his dark silhouette frozen for just a heartbeat, giving them precious seconds to slip further into the shadows. Desperation surged within Rosa. She had to get Ella out. "We need to make a break for it now," she decided. "Which way?" Ella replied, her voice shaking. Rosa didn't have time to think. Every fiber of her being screamed for survival. "The back door," she shouted, heading toward the kitchen. The thought of escape fueled her feet, even as dread chased them both into the sanitizing cold of tile and metal. As they crossed into the kitchen, a loud crash echoed from behind them. It sent a wave of pure panic washing over her. The figure was right on their heels, closer than ever. The back door was ahead, just a few more steps. But the path was cluttered with boxes and chairs, remnants of a fleeting life, a past now overtaken by fear and despair. "Move, move," she urged, pushing Ella forward. They scrambled over piled boxes that felt like mountains. The shouts from behind merged with the thunderous beats of their hearts, time slipping through their fingers like spilled sand. The banging of doors resonated behind them, rage echoing through the air as he hunted relentlessly. The back door loomed closer, flickering light revealing its rusty hinges. A sliver of hope pierced the gloomy cocoon enveloping them. Almost there, Rosa panted, adrenaline sharpening her focus. Then, a heavy hand slammed down on the countertop beside her, eyes glinting with a manic hunger for the chase. "You think you can escape me?" Time warped around them. The moment froze. Every instinct told her to recoil, but instead, she straightened her back, fueled by sheer will. With a swift motion, she pushed a dish rack off the countertop, creating a thunderous crash that momentarily disoriented him, giving them time for the final push. "Now," she shouted, clearing the last barrier as they barreled toward the door. Rosa lunged for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged, throbbing in her throat. Why wouldn't it open? Ella's tiny fingers wrapped around Rosa's hand, a mantra of hope in her eyes. Try again. With a fierce yank and one quick prayer to the universe, the door swung wide, the chill of night air whipping against them like an embrace. Go! She screamed as they stumbled onto the porch, but danger still lurked in the shadows. The figure surged forward, his furious growl vibrating in the night. They dashed down the steps, propelled by terror, but the path through the yard was a labyrinth, faded garden statues casting grotesque shadows. Would the open night swallow them whole, or was freedom just a heartbeat away? The world outside felt foreign, the air thick with the scent of rain. But there was no time to breathe, no time for questions. As they ran into the night, a horrifying realization struck Rosa: this wasn't over. Not yet. What lurking horrors awaited them just beyond the manicured hedges? Would there be safety in the darkness, or would it only draw them deeper into despair? The night air pricked Rosa's skin, sharp with an electric chill that mirrored the dread churning inside her. She could hear the heavy footsteps pounding behind them, relentless as thunder. She glanced down at Ella, who was struggling to keep up, her little legs a rhythm out of sync with terror. Rosa squeezed her hand tighter, determined to pull her through this nightmare. Look there. Ella pointed ahead, her voice strained with fear. A line of trees marked the edge of the yard, branches clawing at the sky. It was their only chance. Keep going, Rosa urged, pushing forward, even as the shadows cast despair. The trees felt like a sanctuary, a barrier against the madness stalking them. They stumbled into the darkness beneath the boughs, and for a moment, the heavy sound of footsteps behind them faded. Just for a heartbeat, silence enveloped them. Rosa paused, her breath clouding the air, glancing around to catch her breath. Do you think he stopped? Ella asked, wide-eyed and shaky. Shoo, Rosa whispered urgently. She strained to listen, but silence hung, thick and suffocating like the heavy cloak of night around them. Just as a sliver of hope began to unfurl in Rosa's chest, a crackling voice pierced the quiet. You can't hide forever. The taunt echoed from the house and slithered through the trees, clawing at their resolve. The panic surged anew. We have to keep moving. Rosa pulled Ella deeper into the maze of trees. Twisting branches snagged at their clothes like skeletal hands, as if trying to draw them back into the shadows. Where do we go? Ella gasped, her tiny voice trembling while she stumbled in the darkness. Just keep running, Rosa urged, bulldozing through the branches, the scent of damp earth and leaves surrounding them. But where were they running to? Only darkness awaited as they emerged from the trees on the other side of the yard. The expanse of the empty street lay before them. Rosa knew they couldn't stay out in the open, not where he could find them. She looked frantically for cover. A small shed stood at the end of the lot, its outline barely visible, shrouded in shadows. It loomed like a forgotten relic of safety. Over there. She pointed, her heart racing again with the thought of refuge. They darted towards the shed, urgency propelling them forward. They reached the door, and Rosa barely managed to push it open, an old creak protesting their hurried entry. Inside, it was cramped and musty, filled with old tools and the lingering scent of oil and rust. Stay close, she whispered, kneeling beside Ella. They tucked themselves behind a pile of boxes, their breaths matching one another, ragged and desperate, but safety was fleeting. With each passing second, the dread coiled tighter around her heart. She could feel the anticipation building like a storm raging inside her, and she wondered, would he eventually come? Would they be discovered beneath this flimsy veil of darkness? The moments stretched painfully as they waited, adrenaline still surging through her veins. Then, from outside, a crunch of gravel made her heart leap. They held their breaths, eyes wide, every other sound silenced. The footsteps were back. Close. Too close. Rosa peeked through a crack in the wall, panic flooding her veins as the figure emerged from the shadows. She saw his shadow moving, erratic and wild. The desperation of a predator who could taste his prey in the air. Rosa, what if he finds us? Ella's whisper trembled. I won't let that happen, Rosa vowed, her voice firm despite the terror gripping her heart. But they were trapped with nowhere to run. Suddenly, a raw scream sliced through the night, echoing from the direction they had come. The sound struck a primal chord, a warning of danger echoing in the darkness. And then it hit her: what if he was not alone? What if there were others? Panic gripped her again, but they had to know. Would they risk the shed or huddle in fear? One way led to danger, the other to unknown horrors. What are we going to do? Ella asked, tears glimmering like stars in her eyes. We will wait, Rosa said, torn between hope and despair. But her thoughts were buzzing, plotting the next move. They had to ACT'd if the universe conspired against them. The door creaked further, and a figure pressed against the wood, trying to pry it open. Would Rosa find the strength to keep Ella safe? Or would the darkness within the shed become their prison? Rosa held her breath as the figure pushed against the door. Each creak was like a drumbeat in her ears, a countdown to disaster. She glanced at Ella, who looked back with wide, fearful eyes. The little girl's small fingers trembled in her grip. Hide, Rosa whispered, pushing Ella behind a stack of dusty boxes. The door rattled again, more forcefully this time, as if the intruder had grown frustrated. Rosa's heart pounded, each thump echoing a dangerous truth. They were cornered. She grasped a rusty wrench lying nearby, its cold metal feeling deceptively reassuring in her hand. If he came in, she had to be ready. The door gave way, swinging open with a slow, ominous creak that sounded like a whispered promise of terror. A silhouette loomed in the doorway, backlit by the faint glow of a street lamp outside. Rosa's grip tightened around the wrench. It was now or never. Ella, stay quiet, she breathed, her voice shaking as she forced down her fear. The figure stepped inside, boots crunching on broken glass that littered the floor, sending a jolt of panic through Rosa. He glanced around, eyes scanning the darkness, a predator hunting in familiar territory. If he could see them suddenly, a low chuckle came from him, chilling her to the bone. I know you're in here. His voice was gravelly, each word dripping with menace. You can't hide from me, little mice. Ella whimpered softly behind the boxes, trying desperately to remain silent. Rosa's heart sank, fear splintering into 1,000 jagged pieces. She had to protect her. With a surge of courage, Rosa stepped out, brandishing the wrench. Leave us alone. The man turned, surprise flickering across his face, soon replaced by a cruel smirk. Cute but futile. He scowled, and she could see the malice lurking in his eyes. Then he lunged toward her, every second dripping with dread. Rosa swung the wrench with every ounce of strength she had, the metal colliding against his shoulder with a sickening thud. He stumbled back, grunting in surprise. Run, Ella! Rosa screamed, her heart pounding as destruction danced on the edge of her vision. The little girl's wide eyes met hers one last time before she darted toward the door. But the man recovered quickly, his anger erupting like a volcano. You'll pay for that, he roared, lunging again. Rosa's breath caught in her throat as she pivoted, pushing past debris, her mind racing. Safety was just outside, and Ella needed her. But as she reached the door, she glanced back to see the man towering above her, his hands reaching out like claws. Don't you touch her, Rosa screamed, throwing herself against the door, desperate to reach her daughter. She had to hold on to hope, had to believe they could escape this nightmare. Ella was outside now, glancing back, confusion mixed with fear on her face. Mommy! The man roared again, steel in his eyes. And then, the world exploded into chaos. The man lunged at Rosa, sending her reeling back into the shed. Mommy! Ella screamed again, pulling at the door, trying to shut it tight, but it was already too late. The shadows had converged, and in that moment, panic reigned. Then came a sound that froze everything. The crack of footsteps in the gravel. A different figure emerged from the darkness, just beyond Ella. Get away from her. A strong voice thundered, moving like a whirlwind. Rosa's heart raced. Who was this new arrival? As everything hung in the balance, the stranger approached the door, ready to confront the man. Would this presence become their savior? Or would they plunge deeper into the abyss? Just when it seemed like time would collapse before Rosa could fully process the twist of fate, she heard another scream pierce through the night, this one echoing from the shadows behind the shed. Her breath caught again. Who else was here? What have they unleashed? With the stakes higher than ever, Rosa knew one thing. They had to escape. Whatever lay beyond this moment had to be faced head-on. But as the darkness edged closer, they were left with one question. Would they see dawn? Just as the newcomer stepped forward, the intruding man pivoted, his features contorting in frustration and fury. You think he can save you? His voice oozed disdain, cutting through the tension like a knife. You're all just toys in my game. The stranger didn't flinch. He was fit, dressed in dark clothing, and moved with a confident intensity. I said, leave them alone. He stood firm, directly between the man and the sobbing Ella, now helplessly tugging at the door in panic. Rosa's eyes darted between the two men, adrenaline flooding her with both fear and fleeting hope. Who was this stranger? Would he be able to protect her child? The intruder feigned a laugh. What is a little kid worth anyway? Just a pawn in a bigger play. He lunged again, a wild swing aimed at the newcomer. The stranger dodged, his instincts sharp, and retaliated with a swift punch that landed squarely on the intruder's jaw. The smack echoed in the evening air, causing Ella to wince. Rosa felt another surge of hope. Get Ella out of here, she shouted, her voice rising above the fray. I'll hold him off. But the stranger didn't look away, his focus unwavering. No, we fight together, he declared. Then, as if realizing the urgency, he called out, Ella, find a place to hide. The little girl's eyes shone with fear and confusion, but she quickly obeyed, her small legs racing further into the darkness surrounding the shed. A part of Rosa wanted to follow, to protect her daughter with every ounce of strength she had. But the man was still there, and he bore down on her. Foolish woman, he growled, narrowing his eyes on Rosa. You're in way over your head. He lunged once more, arms outstretched and filled with malice. Rosa ducked, feeling a rush of wind as his hand swiped above her. She swung the rusty wrench with all her might, catching him on the side, this time harder. He stumbled, but didn't fall. He merely turned back, a wild monster enraged. Enough! The intruder roared, suddenly fixating on the newcomer, as if realizing this was not the time to toy with her. He charged, determined to take him down. Rosa felt the ground beneath her shift, fear tightening around her chest as she saw the intruder tackle the stranger to the ground. They crashed into debris, clattering against the shed's wall. She was frozen, her heart thrumming dangerously, unable to move, unsure of whom to help. It was chaos, cries and grunts mingled with the sound of fists hitting flesh. Then, out of the corner of her eye, movement caught her attention. A dark shape loomed beyond the shed, too close, too silent. Another person? Or something worse? She spun around, all sense of calm stripped away. Ella, she cried, her voice raw, a desperate plea lost in the panic surrounding her. Get back. Get inside. But Ella never answered. Her throat constricted as shadows crept closer. There was something else there, a figure obscured in the darkness, watching and waiting. Rosa stepped back, trying to peer through the night, fear crawling across her skin. Who are you? She demanded. Though every instinct screamed to flee, the stranger on the ground struggled against the man, and the intruder's laughter twisted into a cruel cackle. You think you have it all figured out, don't you? Rosa's resolve hardened. I will fight for her. But before she could act, a chilling cry broke through the chaos, a scream that wasn't Ella's. It echoed through the night, and dread crashed over her. The weight of that sound was heavy. Rosa spun around, her heart in her mouth. What was that? The attacker laughed again, and suddenly everything shifted. She was fighting not just for survival, but for something far larger. Something dark was drawing closer, and it was hungry. Rosa took a deep breath, steeling herself for whatever came next. She would not let fear suffocate her. But as she braced for the next move, the shadows began to merge, and the unknown loomed larger, stealing away her light. What had they awakened in the night? Rosa's heart raced as she grappled with the chilling truth. The eerie silence that followed the scream left an unsettling buzz in the air. Shadows slithered closer, wrapping around her like an unsettling fog, and the very essence of dread hung heavy, thick as molasses. She shot a glance at the men, still locked in their brutal dance, and made a split-second decision. She had to find Ella. Ella. Her voice rang out, desperate and raw, echoing through the dark like a plea to the heavens. Her mind whirled with terrifying questions. Where was Ella? Had the figure in the darkness taken her? Another strangled scream pierced the air, filled with anguish and fear. Rosa's chest tightened. It echoed too familiar. It wasn't Ella yet. The sound reverberated like a jackhammer, ripping through her resolve. The shadows flickered behind her, and the intruder momentarily turned, a glint of satisfaction dancing in his eyes. "Going to save your precious little girl?" he taunted, breaking away from the skirmish for just a moment. "They're all mine to play with." His laughter sent ice through her veins. Without thinking, Rosa bolted toward the source of Ella's last known direction. Each step felt like wading through thick mud, but the urge to protect her daughter propelled her forward. She could hear the rustle of movement behind her, the sounds of a battle continuing, but she dared not look back. It would only slow her down. That a flash of white caught her eye as she rounded the corner of the shed. It was Ella's shirt. She reached it, stomach knotting with anxiety. "Ella," she hissed, desperate to find her, but silence. The oppressive darkness felt alive, wrapping around Rosa like a predator stalking its prey. She peered into the blackness, trying to force her eyes to adjust. "Ella, baby, where are you?" Panic tugged at the edge of her sanity, and then she saw it, an outline moving, slipping between the shadows. Adrenaline surged, and Rosa called out again, "Ella?" Her voice was strained, a mixture of fear and urgency. "Mom." The voice was barely above a whisper, fragile and filled with terror. Rosa rushed towards the sound, her heart pounding. "I'm right here, sweetheart." But as she broke through the veil of darkness, she was met with a horrifying sight. The figure that had loomed there moments before had transformed into more than just shadows. It was a creature swathed in darkness, face shrouded. The heart of the night bled around it, and it hungrily stretched its limbs toward her. Rosa felt a sensation like ice around her. Terror held her fast. "No," she screamed, teeth clenched, her entire body trembling. She couldn't let it take Ella. Before she could grasp what she was doing, she sweetened her fear with a burst of courage. She grabbed a fallen piece of wood, splintered and jagged, and swung it toward the figure. It stumbled back, shocked, revealing more of its form, a twisted visage, a mouth full of pointed teeth that gleamed wicked in the moonlight. "Run, Ella," Rosa cried, her voice cracking as she pushed against the ever-growing sense of dread. All that mattered in that moment was her daughter. There was no choice but to fight, to scream, to defy that dark figure no matter the cost. Ella emerged from the shadows, tiny feet moving faster than Rosa had ever seen. "Mom," she cried, her arms reaching out. But just as safety fell within reach, the intruder surged forward once more, eyes aflame with a manic intensity. "You thought you could escape?" he bellowed, fury erupting out of him. The world around them seemed to collapse as the shadows began to swirl. A dark storm brewed within the night. Rosa's heart thumped in her chest. What had awakened in the night would not stop. "Grab her!" the stranger shouted from the ground, still wrestling with the intruder, trying to pull himself free. But the creature was closing in. Time was slipping away, and she realized they could lose everything. Would they fight together, or would the night consume them? As the darkness surged, she dared to make a choice, a leap into the unknown, where only the faint glow of hope flickered like a fragile firefly in the night. Would her bravery be enough to reclaim her daughter? Or would she and Ella be swallowed by whatever evil lurked out there? Rosa's hands trembled as she faced the creature, heart pounding wildly in her chest. The air felt thick and electric, the shadows around her twisting like serpents ready to strike. She could hardly focus on anything but the imminent danger between her and Ella. "Mom." Ella's small voice broke through the cacophony of fear and chaos, pushing Rosa into action. She could see her daughter, but the creature loomed impossibly close. Its eyes glinted with malice, and its jagged mouth opened wider, revealing a grotesque array of teeth capable of rending flesh. "Get back!" Rosa shouted at the figure, swinging the piece of wood again with all her might. But the impact didn't seem to faze the creature. It just snarled, a low, guttural sound that made her stomach churn. The fear rolling through her was intoxicating, leaving her dizzy. "Ella, run!" The desperation clawed at her throat as she yelled again, hoping against hope that her daughter would heed her command. But Ella was frozen, staring with wide eyes at the horror before them. I can't leave you." She was paralyzed, caught somewhere between her mother's fear and the monster's magnetism. Rosa's heart tore at the sight. "You must, sweetheart. Just run to the house. Find help." She dared to take a step toward her daughter, but was met with the creature lunging forward, its claws outstretched. Just then, out of the night, the stranger roared. "I've got you." He tackled the intruder, pulling it down into the dirt. The clash sent a tremor through the ground, momentarily distracting the creature. But Rosa knew this was only a brief lull in the madness. "Mom." Ella's voice trembled, the sound a sweet, subtle reminder of what was at stake. Rosa barely had a moment to think, could she trust the stranger, or were they all trapped in the clutches of true evil? She had no choice. With a swift glance, she shouted, "Ella, go now." Tears streamed down her daughter's face, but as if propelled by sheer instinct, Ella turned and sprinted towards the safety of the house. Brilliant light filtered through the darkened windows, but it felt an eternity away. "Don't look back," Rosa urged, her voice urgent and fierce. The creature fell momentarily, its attention switching back to Rosa. She felt a cold surge of vindication, but didn't have time to savor it. She pivoted and focused on the man, seeing him struggling against the intruder. With a growl, he tossed the creature to the side like a rag doll, rolling to stand in front of Rosa. "Stay behind me," he shouted, his eyes fierce and protective. Heart racing, Rosa complied, clenching the piece of wood tightly in her fists. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the confrontation was far from over. As the creature rose once more, its form shifting and bending, Rosa caught the glint of a familiar object fall from its grasp, a pendant, stark silver against the dark earth. It sparked a memory of Ella wearing a similar one. It was hers. Could this creature have something to do with Ella's disappearance? "What is it?" the stranger yelled as he faced the creature bravely. "I don't know," Rosa gasped, eyes glued to the pendant. The creature's form began to shimmer, revealing glimpses of something darker beneath, something painfully familiar. "No, it can't be." Rosa's breath hitched. Barely able to connect the dots, she realized the truth, a truth that could not only unravel the night, but transform their entire reality. The shadows grew closer, swirling dangerously around them, the air thickening with the smell of dread. "I need to break this curse," she whispered, heart pounding. What she didn't know was that every choice she made would unearth secrets more twisted than she could imagine. And as the creature reared back, poised to attack, she knew one thing: there was no turning back now. Would she dare uncover the connection that intertwined their fates? Or would fear seal their dark destiny forever? Rosa stood her ground, the creature's eyes shimmering with hidden terror and fury, revealing its formidable power. Each breath she took felt drenched in the weight of desperation, as her heart thudded like the persistent drum of a war march. Ella. She had to save Ella. Emerging from the darkness, that important piece of the pendant glinted like a sign of hope, offering a fleeting glimpse into the past. Everything rushed back: Ella's laugh, her warmth, the innocence she had fought to protect. This creature was tied to her daughter in a way Rosa had not yet grasped. Was it a curse, a legacy? She didn't have time to think as it lunged forward again. "I'll break you. I will destroy this darkness," Rosa screamed, clenching the piece of wood tighter, ripping it from her panic. The warmth of her love surged through her, igniting her rage. Pure determination filled the void of her fear. The stranger shifted beside her, his fierce presence grounding her. Together, he urged, his voice steady, a lifeline in the chaos. He took a defensive stance, blocking the creature's advance. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Rosa nodded, her breath quickening. They had a chance, an opening, if they could just outsmart the creature and harness together the light against the shadow. But the creature twisted, frustrated, its twisted form coiling tighter around them, hissing as if it could sense the burgeoning strength in their unity. Then Ella screamed. Rosa's heart shattered, a splintering sound that echoed in her bones. She knew that scream, the sound of pure fear, and it ignited a fire within her. "Ella!" she cried, adrenaline coursing through her as she met the gaze of the beast, unyielding. "I will not let you take her." With the stranger at her side, they lunged forward. The creature hesitated, its dark glare flickered to them. And in that moment, the knowledge hit her: only united strength could diminish the shadows. They charged together, fear blending with hope, pure determination propelling them. "I remember you," Rosa yelled, voice cracking. The memories of darkness woven through stories unsaid surged back. "You don't get to haunt us. We are stronger than your nightmare." As they collided with the creature, Rosa swung the splintered wood with all her might, aiming directly at the pendant. The creature, had tried so desperately to keep hidden. A shriek pierced the night, and something in the air shifted, crackling like electricity. The pendant burst from the creature's grip, spinning through the air. In that flickering stillness, Ella's voice floated to Rosa's ears, as if echoing across the chasm of darkness. "Mommy." Before the pendant hit the ground, Rosa lunged, grabbing it just inches before the creature could snatch it back. A surge of warmth pulsed through her like a forgotten embrace, like sunlight breaking through relentless clouds. "What is it?" the stranger queried, eyes wary yet wide with hope. "It's Ella's pendant. I think it holds the key." Rosa's fingertips tingled against its cool surface, and surging energy began to weave like gold threads among the shadows, unraveling them. The creature surged forward, dangerously poised to strike, but Rosa's cry echoed against the night. "You are nothing compared to the love I have for my daughter." She pressed the pendant against the creature, and an explosion of light erupted, bathing everything around them. The darkness twisted and writhed, howling in fury as if it were being expelled from its very essence. The shadows crackled, and then, before their eyes, the creature began to dissipate, not as a figure, but as a memory twisted and dark, but dissolving into nothing. Rosa blinked, breathless, the world around her bathed in a golden glow. Then she turned, her gaze locked on Ella, who stood trembling but unharmed, clutching another piece of the pendant in her small hand. It glimmered softly against the showers of light around them. "Mommy, I was so scared." Ella rushed into Rosa's arms, face buried against her shoulder. Tears flooded Rosa's eyes, relief washing over her like a lost tide. They embraced, fear and sorrow chased away by warmth, and in that sanctuary of love, all shadows burned away. "Thank you," Rosa whispered to the stranger, releasing the last remnants of worry. They bonded in a silent understanding. The nightmare had ended. Together they had revived hope and unity in the face of evil. He nodded, a quiet acknowledgement of their bond. "Remember, Rosa, strength is forged in darkness but only finds light when shared." As dawn broke, the warm orange colors of the sun cut through the haze of the night. The mansion stood behind them, once a place of terror, now an echo subdued by light. There would be healing hope lingering in every breathed moment. Through their shared strength, they turned towards the sunrise, hand in hand, ready to forge a new beginning together. So, what happens next is up to you. Make sure you don't miss out on more heart-pounding stories. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive tales coming your way. Smash that like button now. It truly feeds the algorithm, helping us grow. Flood the comments section with your theories, ideas, and reactions. Let us chat and connect. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this thrilling conclusion. Your support means the world to us. Thank you.